People want to see the cat. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we have Oddcast episode 7 today with Mr.
I want to do the intro today. I want to do the intro.
Oh, well, the cat's doing the intro now, Gabe.
How the lightning gets into its eyes.
That'll be our thumbnail.
Yeah, that will actually.
Extra clickbait. All right, so I'm doing the intro today. Switch it up.
Cat's getting very unhappy with me.
Today we have episode 7 with Mr. McLay. Kind of surprised we made it this far. And couple big announcements. First off, Sean and I have decided we're going to continue the podcast beyond senior projects. Secondly, Sean and I have collectively decided we're both dropping out of college to
pursue podcast
full time.
I think that will benefit a lot of people.
Right. Initially, it wasn't
especially those two colleges.
Initially, it wasn't in our plans, but the overwhelming feedback, it just forced us.
All of our 7 comments in total.
And about the comments, you guys can stop telling Sean he's ugly. He can't change his face. We're not getting a new host. Yeah,
thank you, Gabe. That really made up for all my hurt feelings. But I just want to read the top comment from Andrew Abrons. He's got 2 top comments, probably because his comments are very weird. I hope you take offense to that, Andrew. But his top one was they should make Ock face masks, which I agree with. You should branch out the Ock brand.
Uh-huh.
But this one's about you, Mr. McLay, so that's enough about the Ock. So how are you doing? I haven't seen you in what, like 2 weeks or weeks?
Well, since the very beginning of May, yeah. When we finished out the discussion on The Martian.
Yeah, that's
how class has been since then.
Again, this is not my style of teaching, obviously. To me,
so we know.
yeah, you know all too well. You guys have been through classes with me. Sitting still in front of something like this is just not my favorite way of doing things. And Sean, you had me freshman year. If you remember when we did static electricity, when I had the Van de Graaff and all the different things like that, all the demonstrations I would do, I can't do that type of stuff. And I think there's a computer simulation can only show so much, and versus a real life experience. And it's a little bit of a lesser experience, I think, for my students, unfortunately.
It's a shame.
Yeah.
Like with the 9th graders, you can't even actually electrocute them.
Yeah, you can't threaten them either.
I literally look forward to that every year. It's literally my favorite thing to do every year.
Who did you electrocute? Was it Madeline in our class?
Yes.
Oh wait, I was totally joking. Times. I was totally joking.
Oh no, Gabe, he literally got out like a taser and he was like, Madeline! It was awesome, dude. No, so I was gonna ask you, how is it like, because I know you threaten freshmen, or not threaten, but I feel like you scare them in a way. I wasn't scared. All 5'2" of me in freshman year wasn't very scared. But I remember, not to name drop anybody, to a DBE, David was completely just, scared crapless out of from you. But so how is it like different? Are you still able to like threaten freshmen or like?
Well, no, the funny thing is at this point in the year, they know me well enough. It's kind of the funniest thing that, beginning of most freshman years, if it always comes out every year, especially from the juniors and peer advisory, the number one class everybody's afraid of is my class, early in the year. But then the freshmen will see sophomores and like, what do you mean? Mr. McLay's class is the greatest. It's this, that, and they're like, no, he's so scary. His is the worst, And, it's just because of just how the year starts. Because I come in, roaring like a lion and things like that. But by this point, they kind of know that I'm mostly just joking around with everything, and they're used to me. So no, at this point, they've lost the fear. But it gets their attention, that's for sure, early on in the year when you really need to get a freshman's attention.
Has the school ever come to you about your teaching style or anything like that?
Any accolades?
Like Mr. McLay, kids have complained about you scaring them multiple times.
Yeah, HR has 5 complaints.
It's been brought up to me, but I'm like, yeah, that's true. And then they're like, okay. I don't deny it.
It's effective.
But like I said, I have a reputation to uphold.
I mean, it's true. No, Gabe wrote that it is effective. It builds character. That's what it does.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
You know, I freshman year was like a B minus physics student, and I never thought it was for me. And then Miss Hall recommended I take advanced physics this year. I'm doing better in advanced physics than I think I've done in a Hackley course, like ever.
That's good.
Yeah, now you have PTSD from Mr. McLay.
But again, that's a very different class, Gabe, in the way you get to approach it. It's not so rigid as, you know, again, the ninth grade has to be structured. It has to be rigid in that way because it's really trying to get them into a routine of how to learn things, where the advanced class lets you expand yourself a little bit more and, you know, really try things and really, you know, use your own, like, whatever you feel is going to work best for you to try things out. So maybe that's even more conducive to you, Gabe, to the type of way you think and operate. And that's why.
Right. Like if you saw my bridge, Sean, I don't know if you saw it. You did, right? The toothpick bridge. It was definitely not by any book or did not come with any set of instructions.
Yeah.
The most abstract thing of all time.
That's for sure.
Like, toothpicks everywhere.
Oh, is it toothpicks? I thought it was popsicle sticks.
Yeah, toothpicks.
I did come in second.
You came in second? Oh, it's probably like pitiful second.
Yeah, no, Gabe did an awesome job. Yeah, he did.
How much weight could it hold up?
Well, that one only had to hold a brick. But
only a brick.
But
it weighed the least. It weighed the least out of the ones that supported the brick. Well, second least.
Second least, yeah. So the goal was you got the highest grade, went to the one who's held the brick, didn't violate any building rules, and was the lowest in mass. But if yours broke, you automatically fell below the heaviest bridge that survived. So for Gabe to finish second means he had not only a bridge that obviously held, but was the second lowest in mass, which is really good.
Who won?
Sadie Friesen.
Okay,
Yeah,
well, that's just doesn't count.
She's
a mad son, yeah.
Hers was literally also beautiful looking.
It was. I don't think anyone expected mine to actually support the brick because it looked so weird.
Yeah, when you first looked at it, it looked a little shaky, but it held fine.
I had like excess toothpicks just sticking out the side that I could have removed, but it was for the aesthetic.
Well, it's just a better feng shui, right?
Yeah.
Gabe, what did you name your bridge?
No, remember, Sean, you were there when we broke it in the weight room. We tried to see how much, or maybe you weren't. We tried to see how much weight it could hold, so we just put like
pretend there was like things on top of it.
Right. We got to
I remember that now.
24 pounds.
Yeah, it did pretty well.
That's pretty funny then.
Right.
But you didn't name it though? That's sad.
No. I figure once I build an actual bridge, like I replace the new what's the new one by Hackley called? I forget.
George Washington. No, Tappan Zee.
Yeah, it's still the tap.
Oh, it is.
Okay.
I'll build the new Tappan Zee, and then I'll name that one.
Yeah. That is again the one thing I really also on the advanced side hate about all this was that I had all that new plans for that for you guys, and I think I was really kind of excited for a lot of it, and then it scrapped the whole thing. So
that was a shame.
Yeah.
Did you guys do a lot of? Oh, Gabe, tell you.
I was gonna say I still have my glue gun.
Good.
Did you guys do a lot of experiments in advance?
Like labs?
Yeah.
For sure.
And in some cases I would say, okay, I want you guys to try to figure this out. Go find equipment and figure it out. You know, no real guidance. They had to really like think their way through designing the experiment and taking all the measurements.
That's pretty cool. So it was kind of a self-taught class in a way too.
In part. You know, the real experimental part was really almost entirely on them. And a lot of times that's what I would have them do. They would do all the experiment stuff and then we would come back together and they're like, okay, here's the actual physics behind what you were doing. Here's the formulas behind what you're doing. And, but again, a lot of times they had figured out a lot of it before I even told them, which was kind of the purpose.
Makes sense. But Ms. McLay, if we don't mind going back to like labs for like the freshman year, because I remember building a rocket in your class with Carter. Shit. I remember ours exploded and it was all his fault. I did nothing wrong because I really didn't do anything at all to help. But anyways, so how have you guys been doing that? You mentioned computer simulations, and I'm just wondering, like, is that just all you guys been doing, or did you have to like mail the rocket making kits to all the kids so they can make them?
Well, so we couldn't do the rocket project this year, and one of the reasons why is part of the rocket project was a whole thing on circuits, and we're still because of the way the schedule worked, and we couldn't even finish the 9th grade curriculum to the point where we would start the rocket project. And secondly, they would need launchers and all kinds of other things like that. So again, we didn't, we shared all the launching pads and the launching igniters and things like that. So there was no way we could even do that this year. So yeah, again, that's one of those unfortunate things. We didn't get to do the rockets at all. So yeah, so pretty much all the labs now have been, I'm using some simulation sites, which, makes the lab go nice and smooth, that's for sure. You're unlikely to make any real errors, but it does take away again, the physical nature of actually being able to build something. So like, Sean, if you remember freshman year when we did circuits, I taught you guys how to use an actual circuit board and to wire things together and do all kinds of things like that. Where now, again, they're just clicking and dragging, resistors and wires onto a screen and letting them connect together on their own.
Yeah, and there was something satisfying when like clicking everything together and putting everything together, and then like the battery, it was a battery, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would light up. There was always something very satisfying and like rewarding about that. And I feel like just doing that and using your mouse to click is just kind of lame, but you can't really do anything about it.
Yeah, and that's the tough thing on the science end of having to do this. So I actually am contemplating, if this goes into the fall of next year, what I may do is I may video myself doing the labs that we did, like in 9th grade. And then that's what they would use to collect their data. So for example, I might not say what the measurement is. I'll show like a ruler or a thing or something like that, and they'll have to figure out, like they were doing the lab, well, what do I have to record off of this? So it gets a little bit more realistic into what they're doing. Again, rather than just doing a real online sim, because then they would actually see things more happen. So that's my thought process. So,
I know what you mean.
Yeah. So how's it going for you boys?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Missing sports for sure. I think Sean and I are both really missing baseball. And
yeah, that's my baseball shirt right now.
I was wearing that earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I really hate that the most for a lot of the seniors, is missing that spring season, your last season,
right.
Something like that.
I mean, we got in the sport that mattered, though. Winter track, of course.
Oh yeah.
We got it in.
We did the only events that mattered: throwing.
True. I was a little disappointed in the way the team dinner was run, especially when I didn't receive MVP. That was a little weird to me, but it's all right.
Well, it was close, Gabe. It was really close. Do we go with the person who scored a lot of points and set some records?
Or the person who came in last at Nice Haste?
So it was close. I'll tell you that.
No, Gabe, you're right though. I like the part where it ended and we had to start an entirely new Zoom call too.
Yeah, that was funny.
Hey, Sean, you can't complain. You won an award, didn't you?
Coach's award.
Coach's award.
Which, I mean, like, I didn't really like the coaches, so I wasn't really happy with it. But
I think it was just all Coach Dan. He just wanted to let you know after all these years how much he loved you.
Oh, that's so heartwarming.
We came up with some awards for ourselves.
Least amount of distance thrown. My favorite one goes to Deja.
Sean gave least improved to Nikki and Gabe. We both lost 5 feet on our shot put distances by the end of the year.
That's impressive.
For sure. I think it was just a little fatigue. We were burnt out by the end.
I understand that.
Oh no, I think Harrison got like most injured award.
Yeah,
For
that
sure.
would be true.
Least practices shown up too.
No, that one went to JB. He wasn't even doing winter track, but you know what? What didn't Chuck get one? He was like most obsessive captain.
No, he got a coach's award, didn't he?
No, but we're giving our awards. Our awards are the ones that matter, Gabe. No one goes
I
around.
don't know. I just gave least improved to me and Nikki.
Wait, so you gave an award to yourself?
Yes. I felt I earned it.
So what would have been had everything been normal, what would have been your prediction for the Hackley baseball season this year?
See, I don't want to upset any players that are watching this.
30-0.
Yeah, not even 30 games. They just gave us the bonus games, dude. But
state champion, national championship.
You know what? He's right. He's right. Gotta be optimistic. I don't even think we would have. You know what? They wouldn't even let us play games. That's how good we would have been.
I was kind of disappointed because it kind of ruined my recruitment process. I know I was expecting some big offers from, like Duke, LSU this year. They're going to see me take some hacks and just they see my raw power. But then, obviously coronavirus, the damper on that. And now I'm not playing baseball in college.
I hear the Hackley pitchers are known for serving up some nice pitches that end up, inside, heading for Rockefeller.
Nice saves playoffs last year.
That's just Cali. That's no other pitcher. That's just Calaputis.
Furthest hit ball I've ever seen.
No, it was cool.
That was like major league level. That ball took off.
Dude, it wasn't even a competition. I remember.
We were on Del Moro Field, and in the outfield fence, there's like behind it, there's a little hill where the cross country trails
and there's rocks.
And it went over the hill and over the cross country trails. And the most disrespectful part was like the guy knew he hit it like way out, and he didn't even move when he hit. He swung and like stood there a little, and then he did the slowest trot around the bases.
The best part was that all the players did.
Yeah, he almost had two. His first
he fouled one. He fouled one off. His first at bat, he had a deep pop fly, but you were playing so far back that you caught it like right at the warning track. Oh, yeah, no, I remember that. And then they took me out and put Tommy in, and then Tommy let that home run go over his head. I remember that.
That was ridiculous.
No, my favorite part was I was sitting on the bench. I remember. I don't remember who it gave. I think it was like me, you, Jimmy, and it was some of the other guys who would play sometimes, but I don't think we were just taken out. But we were sitting on the bench watching it, and we weren't even like, "Damn, he had a home run." We were like, "Yo, that went so far. That guy must be really good."
We looked at each other and we were like, "That was kind of sick."
We're like, "That guy's really good." And after the game, we were all shaking hands. We were like, "Yo, dude, nice job."
It wasn't fair. He looked like he ate another human being before.
Yeah,
he was 6'7", like 250 pounds.
And he had a baby face too. He had a baby face with facial hair, and he was like, "Dude, that just doesn't work for you." But then he just hits it like 800 feet. That was completely ridiculous.
Even with all that, we were kind of still in the game. Like it was.
Well, yeah, until he hit it out of the park. That
3-2.
kind of took morale. No, yeah, it was 3-2 for the first 3 innings, first 4 innings, right?
Something like that.
But speaking of sports, Mr. McLay, so what got you into track in the first place?
Oh, so back when I was younger, I played soccer mostly. I was a keeper. For about 8 years, I played keeper position since I was in probably 3rd grade. I started off being a keeper. And so when I got to high school, I continued to play soccer, but the tough part again, with a keeper, you're not really running a lot. So I wanted to do some other stuff to sort of stay in shape. So it wasn't until I think my sophomore year I decided just to try track in the spring as something to do with some extra running. And so I didn't even know what events to do. So I figured I would just sprint. And so I mainly did the 200 and the 100 and 200 and 400 in my first year, trying those different things. So then towards the late in that sophomore year, my coach asked me if I wanted to try jumping, like long jumping or triple jumping. And yeah, I did long jump. I'm like, it's okay. And then I got shown how to do a triple jump, and I actually had a talent for it. So I came back my junior year, and I was the top triple jumper on the team. And so, because I was jumping about 38s or something like that to start, and then I ran the 200 just to have another event. Now, back when I was in high school, we had asphalt tracks and asphalt running lanes. Yeah, it's really hard on the knees, I'll tell you that. If it rained, they would cancel the jumping events because the asphalt got really slippery. And every time that would happen, I would joke I would have to hide because my coach made me run the 800. Because I didn't, like, the first time he had me do it, I didn't know how to run the 800. So I took off like I was running the 200.
You must have been like in the lead. Everyone was like, yo, this
Oh
guy's
my God,
smoking
I was
us.
so far out in front of everybody. It was hysterical. So by the time the second lap, of course, is coming around, they're pretty much on me. But I ran the first time like a 2:08. And he's like, "You're running this again." I'm like, "No, I'm never running this again." So basically it was in high school that I really kind of got interested in just doing track. And then when I started my teaching career, I actually started off just doing cross country because the school only didn't need an extra track coach, but they needed a cross country coach. And so I did that for a couple of years. As my first school I taught in was in Charlotte, North Carolina. And then I moved to Atlanta, and they needed a cross country and track coach at the school I was at. And so I was so I did both of those, and that's when I kind of got back into coaching track. And then pretty much had coached that up until my son was born. And at the time my son was born, I was doing cross country track, and I was a department chair, and it was just too much for me to be able to do all that and take care of him. So I dropped track, and then eventually kind of dropped out of coaching entirely for a while. And so it was last year that Carps came to me and said, "Look, is there any chance you'd want to help out with the winter track team? I know you kind of talked about coaching again, and you missed it and stuff." And so my son, who ironically plays soccer and runs track, he doesn't do the winter though. He just does fall and spring. So since winter coaching wouldn't interfere with me going to see his soccer games or track meets, I took that on. So that's really what it was. It comes from having done it myself in the past. And I really do love track. I think it's just a really, underappreciated and yet really great overall sport, because there are just so many different things you can do. When the Summer Olympics come around, track and field is still one of my favorite things to watch. And from a coaching perspective, it gives you a chance to do more than one thing. You can coach running, and you can coach relay things, which is different. And you can coach jumping, which is different. And so it really gives you an ability to do a variety of different things instead of really just focusing on like one thing.
Yeah,
I think the question on Sean and I's mind is, did you win any most improved or coaches awards when you were in high school?
Not that I recall.
I mean, you can change that now.
You can give yourself the
You can just give yourself the coach's award.
Yes,
yeah.
I think I did. I think I got best field event. I don't know. I got it, but I have to be honest with you guys, and it's kind of something I said to like my advisory group and things like that for the seniors is there's like, when it comes to high school, like I said, I don't remember my high school graduation very much at all. Couldn't tell you who spoke. I think my friend Kimberly was valedictorian, but I'm still not 100% sure on that one. I don't really remember all that, but I do remember like I remember all the fun I had on track with my track team. I remember when the entire girls track team basically pants the entire boys team while we were warming up.
That wouldn't fly anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that wouldn't fly. Back then, yeah, that stuff, those antics happened all the time.
Classic prank, pants Coach Dan.
Yeah. I would have paid you for that one, Sean. And just doing all those different things, like all this, goofy things that happen in classes, I still remember, and I remember experiences with my teachers and a lot of that stuff. I don't remember a lot of those event type things, but I do remember all the people I had fun with and things I had fun doing and stuff. So Like I said, I don't remember. I know I won some awards in high school. I don't remember what they were anymore. But I do, like I said, I remember all the things that I did.
I think Gabe and I are gonna have the same exact thing. We're gonna remember all the fun times we had in track. Because I know I had a bunch of fun times. But one of the reasons I think both of us like track too is because you can kind of track your progress and see how much better you get. It's kind of like the same with like lifting, but it's a completely other topic. But going back to the Summer Olympics, I love watching them. Not because like these guys are super athletes, yeah, but I just like seeing how fast humans can run. You know what I mean?
Oh, no.
Just like pushing it to the limit. And I think it was Bill Burr who said, he was like, you know what? We should let people take steroids. Like, screw it. Let's see how fast a human can run in general. You know what I mean? And I am
The
so for that
steroid
idea.
Olympics.
That'd be so awesome. You see a guy jump like 20 feet from a vert and then just land and there's like a crack in the ground. That'd be awesome. Excellent.
True.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Though I still love Jerry Seinfeld's whole story on that. The fact that you could be training all your life and you could lose by 1/100th of a second. He's like, that's got to be tough to live with. And, he's like, he said the silver medal's got to be the worst. It's like, you get the gold, you're like, you won, you're the best. Like you get the bronze, you're like, well, I didn't win, but at least I got a medal. But silver, you're like, ooh, I was that close. And he did this thing. It's like, he did this thing where he turned to the side. It's like this. He's like, greatest guy in the world? Never heard of you.
Have you guys seen the cameramen during the Olympics when people are finishing events? Because it's hysterical.
I don't.
No, no one knows what I'm talking about. So if you look up the cameraman at like the mile or whatever, there's a guy finishing like the mile, and the cameraman has a camera, and he's just sprinting as fast as he can, and he's following the guy with the camera, and the guy's looking at him, and he's like shocked. It's hysterical.
I've never noticed that.
I'm not doing it justice, but that's one of my favorite parts of the Olympics too. It's just the cameramen who are having to do like the same exact things as the people who are running, but they just have a huge camera on their shoulder.
They should have like cameraman Olympics. Like
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's
all the
awesome.
events, but holding their camera.
Like a 20-pound camera and having to get a clear shot.
How is it for you, like advising seniors and knowing that we're going to be gone now? Like,
well, it's funny because so this is my third group of seniors carrying through. So back when I first came to Hackley, often the old way the old advisory program worked is you could change your advisor every year if you want. You just every year you got asked who you wanted to be your advisor. You could change it up all the time. And so, but when a new teacher came in, you were just assigned freshmen because nobody knew you and the freshmen were coming in. So I had a group of freshmen and they stayed with me for the entire 4 years until graduation. Nobody moved. And so the following year, what I asked whoever was the head of advisory that time, I said, can you not put my name as being available? Because often what happened, for example, like this happened to Mr. Karpinski a lot, is a lot of people with their senior year would pick him to be their advisor. And then they'd graduate, and then the next group, so he would always end up with just seniors for a year a lot of times. And so I didn't want that to happen. I wanted to have all freshmen again. So they agreed, and then the next year I got a whole new set of freshmen that, again, I advised all the way through. Now, it was coming towards the end of this when actually Mr. Karpinski and I were talking about there needed to be a fundamental change in the advisory program. And I was very big on this model that I think it worked really well, that when you got assigned your advisor, you stayed with them pretty much for 4 years, unless there was a real conflict or you're just not meshing well. Because in the end, you really get to know these people really well. And they can't like, okay, well, this advisor's on to me about my lack of work, so I'm going to sneak to another advisor who doesn't know me and see if I can just sneak my way through not working hard. So it was kind of that model that did this. So then by the time that second group of graduated, we had gone to this new advisory point. So this is my third group of kids that I've carried freshman to senior year. And so it's gratifying. As I've always said, my favorite thing about teaching freshmen is not who they are, but knowing who they're going to become. And then seeing that process happen is a really gratifying thing for me to see as a teacher and as an advisor. It's sad in many ways because you've just been with them through so much for 4 years, and it's just letting go is it's a tough thing. It's a very sad moment also in that respect, but sad in a good way. It's as I say, it's like I finally got you guys all trained up in exactly the way I want you, and now I got to start all over again with a bunch of freshmen. So that's both sad and exciting in the same way. But it's one of the reasons I love my job. It is one of the reasons I absolutely love what I do, is that being part of somebody's growth through those couple of years, and being able to watch it, to help, to be there, to ask, to push them sometimes beyond what they think they can do. It's one of the real reasons why I do this, and I do this job.
It's very rewarding too.
Yeah, very much so. Even for knuckleheads like you two.
Oh, Mr. McLay. What about David though?
David's your advisee, right?
I will miss him. He is crazy.
he listens to the podcasts.
Oh, good.
Is he your advisee?
No, he's not actually, though. Sometimes I felt like he was. Sometimes I would adopt other kids in occasional advisory, whether they liked it or not. It would be a matter of grabbing them and saying, "You need to get it together."
That's funny.
That's awesome.
Nikki was one of your advisees, right?
Now he's actually Miss EK's. He was just in my homeroom. But again,
right.
But again, I don't know if you remember, but Miss EK had to go on leave. And so he was my advisor. So for almost a year, I had 2 advisory groups. Actually, during one of the more challenging aspects of high school, because it was from January of junior year through pretty much almost December of senior year. So not a very light time in the student's life.
Right.
So I had 16 advisees I was working with on that. So
right.
yeah, in part I was his advisor for a little while.
Yeah, he told us you had like a crazy college application story. He told me that once.
No.
He told me that. I was wondering if we could hear.
Okay,
yeah, let's get at him.
I only applied to one college. Yeah. Pretty stupid on my part, I would have to admit.
You must have been really confident. Like,
I don't know if I was really dumb. I just didn't think that they would say no. And I just didn't
believe me, they do.
I really didn't think it, I mean, to be honest with you, I really didn't think it through. I decided I wanted to go to Boston University. My plan was to go to that for aerospace engineering. I applied early decision and thought, okay, I'm good. And this is back in the day where we got our acceptances by actual physical mail. And a thin envelope was to be feared because a thin envelope was often a sorry. A thick envelope had the acceptance plus all the other stuff you were going to have to do next with it. So I remember coming home on December 22nd to a thin envelope from Boston University. And I am just sitting there going, oh no, just kind of holding this thing and, kind of slowly opening it because my thought is I have a week to get applications and essays in before the January 1st deadline to any other college I might think I might want to go to, which I hadn't given much thought to. But I open it up and the first thing it says is congratulations, and that the rest of the stuff will be coming in a further packet and things like that. And
they just wanted to scare you.
Yeah, exactly.
Something like that. But I was just like, oh my God, that was probably not really a smart choice on my part. I just lucked out in a big way. So yeah, that's my, I don't recommend that for anybody out there.
I aspire to have your level of confidence, Mr. McLay. That is so cool. You were like, I'm getting in. Gabe said it right. He's like, I'm a lock. I'm a lock.
I honestly didn't think they would say no. Just didn't cross my mind. Now, meanwhile, like my best friend, who actually had higher SAT scores than me, same grade point average and stuff like that, had gotten a couple of rejections in that same week. So, So I was like, oh, okay, I lucked out in that one.
So I guess words of wisdom don't apply to one school.
Yes,
For all-
please don't. Please
Oh
don't.
no, I got the
all the juniors
opposite
and
of that.
underclassmen watching.
Yeah, any other classrooms, please don't do that.
No, you have to make them like pity you. Just say, I only applied to this one college. Please let me in.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, well, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
You write
But
that
again,
in all of
it
your essays.
was a lot different back in that day. I think, unfortunately, I think the Common App, as beneficial as in some ways, has ruined the entire application process.
Excellent.
Indeed. Because, where, back when I was applying, there would be, say, 5,000 applications for, 1,500, 2,000 spots. Now there's 30,000 applications for 1,500, 2,000 spots because it's just so easy to click of a button.
Right.
So I think that's unfortunately a bit problematic in that, and makes it a lot harder on you guys.
Right. Especially the ones without essays. I know for like Northeastern, for example, they had no essays. So I was like, why not?
Exactly. Well, exactly. Yeah. And, and part of it is so the colleges can say, hey, we have 30,000 applicants. Hey, we have 35,000 applicants. But yeah, that's great. But then you can only accept like 5%.
Right.
Well, that's all about the statistics. They want to get their numbers down. So everyone's like, oh, that school is, so prestigious. I want to go there. And then you get there and it's just like, eh.
No, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. It's a numbers game.
So Gabe asked Mr. McLay this question the other day, or sorry, Mr. Loveco this question the other day, and I thought it was a really good question. So, what would be your dream addition to the Hackley curriculum for science?
But not for science, just for anything.
Oh, for anything, yeah. But Gabe, kudos to you. That's an awesome question.
Thanks, man.
Okay, so I'll give you kind of two things, I guess, in respect that kind of meld that a little bit. One, I always say, if I didn't teach science, I'd like to teach history. I love history. I think it would be fun to have a sort of a historical science class, one that goes into the history behind a lot of the things, and then you could even see if you can replicate some of the experimentation or anything like that was historically done. Being able to look at really deep down, like what was going on in the time frame. Like freshman year, I talked about Newton and the plague. If it wasn't for the plague, he wouldn't have had all this time on his hands to have discovered so many things, and a lot of the things like that. I thought it would actually indeed be fun to if you took that class and then created a spring break trip where you would visit some of these actual locations where where Galileo worked and Newton worked and Kepler worked and all those things like that. So something like that I think would be really, really cool, just as an across the board kind of different class. The other, I guess, class I think that would be also kind of neat, just from a science point of view, would be a full-on engineering class that was more, again, like the bridge project that we were planning on doing. So it was really just doing a lot of the mechanics and building and engineering type projects. That's tougher to do because you really have to go a lot faster in terms of a lot of the underlying material. You got to make sure they know before they can start actually an engineering project. So that, as much as I would like to see that happen, that's a little bit harder to do than I think we might have the time for.
Right.
But it would be nice.
So cool.
Do you think that's possible, like in the near future? Because I know like a lot of my friends' high schools and a lot of these like specialized high schools and academies are like already have engineering courses.
Right.
So I thought, yeah.
I think it is. I think we could work it out. Again, I think though, it's one of those things like the juniors who would come out of advanced could probably go into that because then they've already got a bunch of the underlying stuff. So there would be less to teach right at the beginning, and we could go much farther into a lot of the engineering stuff. So it's possible. I could see where it would work that way. But for someone to come in just brand new, they would have to really do some work ahead of time to be really ready for it.
Right.
Yeah, it's like joining like AP Comp Sci after only taking like intro.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's a pretty good comparison. Yeah. So.
That'd be cool though, honestly. If I take an advanced sophomore year and I could do that, that would be pretty cool for me, in all honesty. But I feel like engineering is such a kind of it's a lot of stuff that goes into it, and so some kids can kind of feel, I guess, not threatened by it, but kind of overwhelmed by it.
Yeah, it can be. It can be very overwhelming. I mean, my freshman year at Boston University, they got all the engineers together and said, look to your left, look to your right. Those people won't be with you at graduation, because it had a 63% attrition rate. So
You're scaring me.
Yeah, exactly.
I applied as an electrical engineer.
Oh, well, we used to say in aerospace, well, if you want to, you could wimp out and go electrical.
No. Okay, that makes me feel better. Easy engineering, that's for me.
Okay.
Mr. McLay, did you know, like, prior to college that you wanted to go into engineering?
Yes. Now, so again, one of the reasons I chose BU is because they had an aerospace engineering program. So I always liked astronomy and aeronautics and things like that to begin with, and I was very good at math and science, so it just kind of fit where I felt I would be successful and was going to be interested. So, but it really wasn't until my senior year the beginning of my senior year, and I was taking physics, and I really, really, really liked it. Because originally I thought about doing chemical engineering, but once I really got into physics, I'm like, no, I think I really like actual mechanical type or aerospace engineering.
Did you always have like a passion for meteorology and astronomy? Because for those of you watching, Mr. McLay was the teacher for meteorology and astronomy. He was my teacher this year, and it was a really fun class. Can't recommend it any higher.
Yeah, astronomy, yes. So I didn't get into meteorology until the previous school, where a teacher had left who had been teaching a meteorology and astronomy combination class, and they asked anybody if they wanted to take it over, and I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. And then, so, I mean, I had to learn all the meteorology actually stuff on my own beforehand. But again, I was living in Florida, so, you know, between hurricanes and lightning and tornadoes and all kinds of things like that, I thought it was just really a great and really interesting course. So, so yeah, so I just kind of really fell into it, but I really like it. I really enjoy it.
It is pretty cool to think about it and you know, and like understand what's actually going on when you see like a hurricane or tornado, you know, coming at you at like 300 miles per hour.
Yeah.
Sean, you're going in undecided, correct?
I am going undecided, yeah, because I'm going to Catholic University, if you didn't know, Mr. McLay, in DC. Oh, well, now you know, going to Catholic University in DC. But yeah, I applied to the business school, but like I love the way they do it, because you don't just take business classes, you take everything when you apply to a school like that, and you can just transfer anyways. So that's cool.
Get to take a meteorology class?
I don't have it there.
Ah, too bad.
My mom, Sean, she said earlier today you should go into broadcasting, that you're doing a great job. I was thinking you might just have to shave the beard.
I mean, I can shave it live right now if you really want me to. Hold on.
No, stop. What are you doing? What are you doing? Please don't.
I would never, Gabe.
Okay, thank you. Stop.
What?
Yeah,
what,
she's
Gabe?
like,
what?
Yeah, Sean's really carrying the show. I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
thanks.
That's not true.
Thanks,
Gabe,
Mom.
Gabe and I couldn't do this. If it was just one of us, the show would not be the same.
That's true. Having co-hosts is a good thing.
Yeah, no, it's awesome too, because when I don't have a question on something and I have no idea what's really going on and I zone out, then I don't have to ask, you know, like, oh, yeah, that's really cool. And, you know, Gabe can kind of take over, which has been happening this entire podcast interview. So, actually, Mr. McLay, so I was wondering about this. Why do you have so many Mickey Mouse tattoos and just ties? And why do you have so many in general?
Okay, so
Mickey Mouse tattoos.
I only have one Mickey Mouse tattoo.
Wait, is it? Oh, you should get like a Mickey Mouse face tattoo. You have like your eyes be the ears.
Definitely not going to do that. But thanks for the thought. So this goes back to when I was, I think, 4 or 5 years old. My grandmother, who actually just passed away a week ago, she was 95. So I mean, so my grandmother, you know, was fairly young when I was born, because she's been around with me for 51 years. So, but she would often come to pick me up to take me to go places. So this is in Pittsburgh, where I was born. And so she took, we went to this one particular mall she liked to go to a lot. And we walked in and there's this big contest going on, and it's a Mickey Mouse drawing contest. In other words, you draw pictures of Mickey Mouse, and the grand prize was a trip for 4 to Disney World. So my grandmother sits me down, has me draw a picture, and looks at it and says, "No, that's terrible. Do another one." She made me do 3 pictures.
That's actually that's how
Really
freshman year
wanted to
physics
win.
was for me. That is literally how freshman year physics was for me. No, that's terrible. Do it again.
Yeah, exactly. So this is probably where I get it from. So anyway, I finally do one that she approves of, and we kind of turn it in. So anyways, like about a month or so later, we get a call to the house, and my mom's on the phone, and it's like, "What do you mean a Mickey Mouse contest? What are you talking about? What is this all about?" And I'm in the background. I'm like, "Call Nana, call Nana, call Nana." And she's like, "What?" I'm like, "Call Nana." And so she kind of hears what they're saying. It's like, "Okay, let me call you back," or something like that. Calls my grandmother and says there was this contest thing. She's like, "Did he win?" And she's like, "Well, no, he didn't win the first prize, but he got the second prize." And she's like, "Oh yeah," and then she explains the whole thing. So we go there, and second prize is a stuffed Mickey Mouse that's literally taller than I am at that time. And they took my picture, which got in the paper with the Mickey Mouse and all kinds of things like that. So that sort of where it kind of got kicked off. And then, my family started giving me other Mickey Mouse things and stuff. And so when I first started teaching, I happened to have like 3 ties, and they were just Mickey Mouse ties. That's just the only ones I had. So I wore them all the time. And then, of course, naturally, people thought that's all I like to wear, so they gave me ones as gifts. And so now I'm literally up to about 30 some odd Mickey Mouse ties. So it became my thing, just one of those things that you just kind of start doing, and it just becomes symbolic of you.
I don't even think I have 30 ties in total, and you have 30 Mickey Mouse ties.
Yeah.
After winning that, did you ever consider maybe I should go into animation? Like, they must have thought you were an animating prodigy.
Yeah, that was probably the peak of my drawing career. I literally peaked at being able to draw, I think, at the age of about 4 or 5. So it's been all very, very downhill since then.
That's funny.
That just is really funny to me. So you only had 3, and people were like, "Oh yeah, screw it. He likes them. Just give him more."
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, be careful of people thinking you really like something, because then it just becomes you're just what you're known for.
But I actually have another question that is completely different and off topic from this. But so, in your chapel talk, which I enjoyed a lot, I really enjoyed your chapel talk, Mr. McLay. But you alluded to the idea that you are in fact an introvert. So do you think that quarantine is affecting introverts in a more positive way than extroverts, or does it depend?
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, and I'll give again, as I mentioned, my son is a good example of this. He's very much an introvert, and to this is kind of fine for him. Largely he's been like, I'm fine. So in that respect, and I've actually have a couple of friends who've sort of mentioned the same thing. They're like, "Oh, this is almost perfect for me because there's less I sort of have to deal with in that respect." So like I said, for me, it's not, like I said, I just don't like the fact that I don't get to teach in the way that I'm used to teaching. Other than that, I'm fine, in terms of a lot of things and the way that goes. So I guess, yeah, I think in that way, but I think no matter who you are, introvert or extrovert, the lack of actual being able to, we as humans really do crave an interaction with each other. It is human nature. I mean, yes, we come historically from hunter-gatherers a long time ago, but they still gathered in tribes. If you were the lone hunter, you probably weren't going to survive very long on your own or something like that. So human interaction and the need to feel connected to other people is still really, really important. This is nice. Being able to talk to you guys like this is great. It's still, I still, even in the introvert nature of me, miss the actual being able to be in a room with you guys for, to have a conversation sometimes too. I don't want that conversation to last a long time, but there's that need for connection, I think, is still hard on anybody, no matter who you are.
That's true. Very well said.
Have you been keeping busy or entertaining you guys selves in quarantine? Anything different?
No, that's not much different than me, although I am probably watching more TV than I ever used to. I actually I'm not the biggest TV watcher. I tend to have music on more often because I'm usually grading papers or cooking or doing a lot of other things where I like to have music on. But I think because of just the way the schedule has worked, I'm not grading quite as often. And so I have more time in that respect on my hands. And so I've actually been watching probably more TV. Now, literally, I've again, my son and I are both big fans of the Marvel movies, so we've pretty much gone through all 21, I think, again, in the time period. Yeah, stuff like that. So a lot of movies.
Question about your grading. You were talking about that, and Sean, I don't know if you probably are because you took his class in ninth grade, but Mr. McLay is like the fastest grader of all time.
No, it's incredible.
An official title like bestowed upon you, and I was just wondering, like, how do you do that? Because there were times where I'd upload my homework on Shobi, and like within 4 minutes, you would have looked it over and given it comments and all that.
Well, first I'll tell you, so on the ninth grade end, remember I wrote the book and the problems. Those homeworks are really easy for me to grade because I know what the mistakes are going to be before I even look at it. And it's very easy for me to spot those and do that. So I don't have to do as much scrutiny into the work we're doing. And again, when it comes to an actual physics problem, I generally know what to look for. So after all these years, indeed, like mistakes really do stand out very easily for me. Even if I'm skimming fast, I tend to spot them pretty quickly and easily. So it's really not that hard for me to go through the problem parts. Now, when it comes to the labs and a lot of things like that, those definitely take me a lot longer to do. But I still try to get them back reasonably quickly because I want my students to see it before we do the next thing, so that hopefully they can say, okay, here's my mistake, so I don't make that mistake again the next time around. If you do 3 labs and then you're just getting the first one back, well, you might have repeated some of those same mistakes on the other 2. So it's always been my method, my way to try to do that. So I literally just sit down and I just start going, and I don't stop until I'm done.
How would you advise for students or just anyone with productivity issues or motivation issues? How do you sort of find that motivation for yourself to do it?
Oh my God. So that's hard. That's hard for me to advise people on, because what motivates everybody is very, very different. Some people are motivated by their grades, and that's what's going to motivate them. Some people are motivated because they're genuinely interested in what it is that they're doing. Now, that's the best kind of motivation, obviously, but that's not going to translate to every class, and that's why some people tend to do, especially in this environment, really well in some areas, and they're falling down in others, because the stuff that they're genuinely interested in, they're just that much more motivated into doing it. So I really think, for example, for me, it takes a lot of sort of a little bit of planning ahead. If you were looking around my work area right now, which I'm not the cleanest person when it comes to my work area, I mean, I've got sticky notes and I've got messages and things like that, just to keep myself organized enough to stay on top of things. So I really think it does require, especially in this environment, you need to have some structure around yourself, and say, okay, I'm going to do this and this, and then I'm going to take a break and I'm going to go do this for a little bit. But I'm only going to do this other thing for, half an hour, and then I'm coming back and I'm going to get right back into whatever it is I'm doing. So it really is digging deep inside yourself.
Like a very disciplined schedule.
Yeah.
Like routine kind of type
and
thing.
A routine. Yeah. A routine is really important. Even though we have this rotating schedule and stuff at Hackley, it's still a routine. And that's part of what keeps people going sometimes, is even when you're starting to lack a motivation, there is a routine that keeps you in that. And so as long as you can keep doing that, it helps. And like I said, I set timers for myself so that I don't get off track of my routine, other things like that. Because again, this is not an easy thing for someone like me, because I do well in a better structure than I do non-structured.
Makes sense too, because I remember whenever we'd come back from like, you know, winter break or whatever, and we'd have to do work, I would just be not. I would not be able to focus. I'd be like, wow, this sucks. How was I able to do this before? But you know, like the last 2 weeks of winter break, where you know I'm just cranking out homework every night. I get home at like 7, do work till 9, take a shower, and then you know do whatever and go to bed. And thinking about it right now, it does make a lot more sense that once you got into that scheduled routine, everything was just so much easier, and your mind would kind of, it's like muscle memory in a way with your mind. We'd be like, okay, now it's time for, you know, math homework, whatever.
Right. I'll tell you that every year, some of the hardest time of the year is the first 2 weeks of school. Coming off of summer, you know, and I know it's tough for everybody else, but it's difficult on a teacher too, because you're having to put yourself back into this routine again, and it's a shock to the system a bit. Yeah.
So do you think it'll be harder for students coming back, for assuming classes resume in September? Do you think it's going to be a lot harder for students coming back from summer vacation, or it's going to be probably about the same?
I think it's going to be about the same. I think, you know, I mean, I don't know if people will be as rested if we can't do some of the things that we like to do in the summer as much. You know, that can have that mental drain in and of itself. So I just hope that doesn't happen more than anything, indeed. But again, I think just any time off and time away gives you at least, you know, some form of sort of recharge.
Right.
That makes sense. So I actually have one question that me and Gabe are curious about, because Gabe, you were on community council this year, right?
Yeah.
So how did you get started with that? Yeah, I'll be honest, Gabe. I think you gotta pat me on the back. I was basically your campaign manager.
It was like everyone had their top choices, and then they're like, oh, let me vote for the person who I don't think will win, so that the other 2 votes mean more. And then I got enough of those pity votes. It's like, oh, you actually won. I know the question was for Mr. McLay. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I'm just surprised you didn't get impeached. But anyways, Mr. McLay.
Yeah. I'm sorry, could you say that one more time, because there was something coming in. No, there was an email from Mr. Wertz and I needed to see it real fast.
Fair enough. So how did you get involved with community council? Because I know you've been on it for a while, and you are a very big part of it. So I was just wondering how.
God, I don't know if you'll remember this person's name, but Miss Bowers, teacher Katie Bowers, was in charge of community council, and so she was going to be leaving at the same time that I was stepping down from department chair. And I'm just not one of those people who doesn't stay involved in some aspect of the school and other, you know, so department chair took up a lot of time, and there's a lot of energy to be able to do that. So now that I wasn't doing that, I was kind of looking toward, well, what else can I do to be part of the community or do something like that? And Ms. Bowers was leaving. So I went to Mr. King and I said, you know, I would be maybe interested in taking over her role as head of community council, as faculty head of community council. And he said, yeah. He said, well, you know, I have to put the offer out to the whole faculty because there might be some other people and things like that. And I think in the end, nobody else really expressed an interest. So I ended up doing it. And so, you know, the first year there, I was kind of just getting a feel of what was kind of going on. There were people there who had been on council and were still on the council. And but then, you know, in the next year is when I really started to make some more changes into it, to the point where now council became so much bigger and doing so many more things that I had to finally go to Mr. King. It's like, I can't be at everything that I'm doing now, just me. So I need to get some sort of help along. So he put out there, and that's when Mr. Gruenberg came along and said he'd be willing to help out with it. But yeah, it's one of those things that, you know, I definitely like to be involved in more than just teaching physics at the school. I've always kind of been that way at every school I've been at.
Do you think community council should have more power?
We got a lot of power.
Yeah, like James D being able to cancel school for a week type power.
You know, power.
You don't even know what I'm capable of.
Yeah, exactly.
Power is a dangerous word. So no, I think again, our mandate is to do things for the community. Okay, not to lord over the community or anything like that, but to really kind of provide, things for the community and spirit and other aspects of just, stuff that keeps the community together is fun for the community. And I like that aspect of it. I like that we will advocate for things where we can and when we can. Sometimes we get things, sometimes we get things shot down. But no, I think I like what we do. Like any government, it's got its ups and downs and its ins and outs and things like that. But overall, I think we do a nice thing for what we're supposed to be doing. And we do the best we can.
True. Gabe, you have more questions?
Yeah, one last question before we let you go. We've been talking for a while here. Do you think you could promote the podcast in one of your school-wide emails?
Sure can. How is it being viewed? Like, what's the...
We're posting all of these on YouTube under like this channel we made for our podcast.
Okay.
And we're kind of blowing up, but we're still looking to reach more of the Hackley community.
Okay.
Especially
send me a link that I can send out to everybody.
For sure, especially the teachers, because I think a lot of the students can find us through like social media.
Yeah, because you've been promoting on our Instagram stories, and
the teachers I think are interested, but we haven't really had a way to reach them broadly.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Just send me a link to the channel.
What's your price?
I'll do it just for my love of you guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he's promoting himself because it's the episode of
He's promoting his dream addition to the curriculum. He's like, make it happen, Hackley.
Thank you for speaking with us, Mr. McLay.
Yeah, this was a blast.
My pleasure, guys. And I'm glad you guys are enjoying this. Okay, this was fun.
Thank you.
Super fun. Thank you, Mr. Cliff. See you later.
Right, guys. Take care.
Yeah.
Take care.